It's a highly doubtful if, but if Madeleine McCann is still alive, 2 weeks ago she turned 19. Of course, her parents, Gerry and Kate, cling to an infinitesimal hope she's out there somewhere. But 15 years on, from the little girl being snatched in Portugal, the realistic view about her fate is far more pessimistic. That's not to say the mystery of what happened to her won't be solved, though. Portuguese and German investigators are convinced they know who abducted Maddie. Their prime suspect is Christian Bruckner, a truly terrible piece of work. However, 2 years after revealing their suspicions about him, there's a tough question to ask. Why haven't they charged him with the crime? It's a completely unwanted claim to fame, the world's most well-known missing child. For a decade and a half now, 3-year-old Madeleine McCann's angelic face has been imprinted in our memories, as has the heartbreak of her parents.
Please, if you have Madeleine, let her come home to her mummy, daddy, brother and sister.
The story, or more accurately, nightmare of Maddie's abduction is frightening. In May 2007, she was grabbed from her family's holiday apartment in Praia de Luz, Portugal. At the time, her parents, Kate and Gerry, were eating dinner with friends in a restaurant just metres away. Do you think Madeleine was taken that night opportunistically, or do you think it was planned?
All the hallmarks of this case fit with an opportunistic. Most likely, she woke up, she walked out the back patio door, and as she walks down the step and onto the road, that is where the opportunistic offender struck.
Few people know the case better than former British detective Mark Williams-Thomas. That's significant, isn't it? I mean, you're essentially saying that the reason she was taken, the reason that she was at that place at that point in time and the opportunity arose was because her mum and dad simply weren't there.
Yeah, and it's incredibly sad, and they have to live with that and the consequences of that for the rest of their life.
Now, this is a family enduring the greatest anxiety. Where is Madeleine?
The effort that's gone into searching for Maddie and finding the truth about what happened to her has been phenomenal. For many, it reached a conclusion 2 years ago with a stunning announcement. A German prosecutor, Hans Christian Wolters, told the world detectives had identified a prime suspect.
The public prosecutor's office is investigating a 43-year-old German national on suspicion of murder.
Today, the suspicion Christian Bruckner, or Christian B, as he's also known, abducted and murdered Maddie, is even stronger. Where do you think Madeleine McCann was killed?
In Portugal.
There has never been any remains found, has there? It's quite shocking to hear you say that.
Because of the evidence we have, she died in Portugal.
Mark, as a suspect, Christian B ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Vile, horrible man. He's got a predilection of offences against children. He seeks out children.
Like everyone, Mark Williams-Thomas wants the McCann mystery solved. But he's worried prosecutors have acted prematurely and that they simply don't yet have enough evidence to charge and convict Bruckner. In other words, as vile as it sounds, being a pedophile doesn't necessarily make him guilty.
That doesn't make him the prime suspect in relation to Madeleine's abduction solely on the basis that he had a predilection for offending against children. What you need is direct evidence, and there is no direct evidence that places Christian B in Praia de Luz, albeit the German prosecutor has been very clear that he has got that evidence. When you pull it apart, it doesn't exist. And let's be clear, this isn't just child abduction we're talking about. The Germans have absolutely nailed their tail on the donkey by saying Madeleine is dead, was murdered in Portugal.
Mark Williams-Thomas says that after 2 years working on the case, police should have charged the prime suspect by now. That he hasn't been shows the weakness of the investigation. If you are so certain about this evidence, why haven't you simply charged him?
We can only charge him when we will sure, but in this case we need much more time, so some years, I think.
Prosecutor Wolters is steadfast. He wants it known evidence is being collected. The case against Bruckner is progressing.
We want to make a serious investigation and not a fast investigation.
Great. If he's got a piece of evidence, if he's got that silver bullet that enables him to charge him, then get on and charge him.
Frustration is an understandable emotion when Christian Bruckner's dossier of past crimes is revealed. He's a convicted pedophile, burglar, rapist, and known user of child pornography. He's currently in jail for the violent sexual assault of a 72-year-old woman.
He's a criminal, and he was sentenced for sexual abuse of children, for burglaring, for beating other people, something like that.
And now, Hans Christian Wolters claims he's uncovered new crimes Bruckner has allegedly committed, including more sexual assaults. The prosecutor says they occurred around the area where Maddie McCann disappeared. Are you about to charge Christian Bruckner with other sex crimes that are not related to Madeleine McCann?
We hope that we could end, or that we could finish the investigations on other sex crimes in the next days.
No one disputes Christian Bruckner is a lowlife, but linking him to the McCann case has needed as much good luck as it has good police work. Mark Williams-Thomas says the first significant clue was 5 years ago.
There was some intelligence that came in 2017, and this is Helga Busching. And we know that he spoke to the German authorities and said that Christian B at a music festival had told him that he was responsible for Madeleine's disappearance.
Helga Busching also told police he and this man, Manfred Seeferth, visited Bruckner's farmhouse in Praia de Luz, just over a kilometre from where the McCanns were holidaying. Seeferth says inside they found videos that allegedly showed Bruckner sexually assaulting 2 unidentified victims.
She was tied to the post with hands up like this. And she said in German, "This is rape." He said, "No, it's not a rape." She looked like 15 or 16. I saw him clearly in this video. I also saw the face of the young girl.
Even though the tapes have never been found, police still believe the evidence is important. Mark Williams-Thomas, though, is less sure, claiming Helga Busching was handed money to reveal his story.
He was paid in relation to giving that evidence.
Not a lot, really, was it? I mean, it wasn't a king's ransom.
No, it wasn't a lot, but it's enough to taint a potentially evidence being given.
What's not in doubt is that Christian Bruckner's movements around the time Madeleine was taken were suspicious. Back then, he was living in and selling drugs out of this van. This man, Dieter Fellinger, remembers an encounter he had with Bruckner in April or May 2007.
I asked if I could see inside. He said yes, and we went inside. It was almost as big as a living room. He said he was planning to get 50 kilos of weed and transport it to Germany or Russia or somewhere. And I just asked him, where is he planning to hide? And he said, I have a hiding spot. I remodeled and fixed a hiding spot big enough that small children can fit in.
When the camper van was seized by police, they reportedly found children's clothing inside. It was information which sent chills through Dieter Fellinger.
I have been thinking about it the whole time. Hopefully she wasn't in there when I was in the camper van.
Bruckner fled Portugal in the days after Maddie's disappearance. He moved to the German city of Brunswick, where he ran this kiosk. He also bought a rundown factory just outside of town. When police searched the property, they found a trove of child abuse material. 8,000 computer files showing young children. Bruckner was seen in about 100 of those files, but there was nothing of Maddie McCann. It's another reason Mark Williams Thomas remains cautious about the case. Christian B liked to keep video of his offending. Does that mean that we could expect somewhere, perhaps not discovered yet, some sort of video evidence of Madeleine McCann?
Absolutely. I mean, people are creatures of habit, particularly child sex offenders. I have no doubt that had he abducted Madeleine, he would have filmed it, he would have kept that material, and there isn't a single piece of evidence that exists to show that Madeleine's photograph existed. And I think that's one of the pieces of evidence that I would look at and say, that doesn't fit him as his offending behaviour.
Christian Bruckner has always refused to speak to police about Madeleine McCann's disappearance. But in an incredible twist, when Mark sent him a letter, he replied. Has Christian B told you anything that you haven't revealed? Until they find the truth, Kate and Gerry McCann will never give up searching for their daughter Maddie.
Please, please do not hurt her. Please don't scare her. Please tell us where to find her.
But German prosecutor Hans Christian Wolters warns that could still be years away. He's certain notorious sex offender Christian Bruckner is responsible for the crime, but says patience is needed for justice to be done.
She's dead, and Christian B is the murderer of her.
Former British detective Mark Williams Thomas, though, has reservations about the strength of the police evidence. Unlike police, Mark has been able to communicate with Bruckner. He wrote to the suspect in jail and remarkably received not only a reply, but also an alibi. Bruckner claimed he couldn't have abducted Maddie because at the time he was having a holiday romance with an 18-year-old woman.
So Christian B is very supportive and defensive of the young girl that he was with.
That could also be a very convenient excuse, could it not?
Well, yes, if we hadn't have tracked that person down. And they've categorically told us over that period of time that she was with him.
According to Bruckner, he and the woman were together for 2 weeks. And during that time, he spent the nights at her place in Caballero, 40 kilometres from Praia de Luz. There is still a rather large window of opportunity, time-wise, for him to have committed the act against Maddie McCann.
Absolutely. But look at the behaviour afterwards. Is a man who's abducted and murdered a child, is he going to be continuing to go and visit his girlfriend nightly, behaving in exactly the same manner? I would question not.
I do get the impression that you are largely believing Christian B when he tells you those things, which I find interesting because he is a proven liar.
Every single point that I've looked at that he's told me, I've gone to another source, an independent source, and they've confirmed.
Because you know better than most, Mark, that there are many, many, many thousands of people in our prison systems who all say they're innocent.
And many of them write to me all the time. You're absolutely right.
But Prosecutor Wolters is harder to convince. He spent the last 5 years studying Christian Bruckner's life and crimes and says he knows what the monster is capable of. Have you investigated that potential alibi, as Christian B puts it?
I can say that there is no alibi. And I think we spoke with everyone who was a part of Christian B's life in this time.
If there's any comfort to be had, it's knowing Bruckner is serving a 7-year jail sentence for other sexual crimes. And it's an incarceration that's likely to be extended if he's found guilty of even more charges, which are expected to be heard in court soon. It buys investigators time to try to strengthen their case that he is responsible for Maddie's disappearance and presumed murder. Is it enough evidence that you are very confident?
If we have not enough evidence, I wouldn't speak about this in this way.
Can I ask you the nature of that evidence? Is it photographic?
But I can't speak about what kind of evidence we have, because everyone will speculate. This needs time because of the 3 countries which are involved in this case.
Mark Williams Thomas knows not only how complicated, but also how important this case is. And that's why he's questioning parts of the investigation. He says after 15 years of not knowing, police simply can't afford to get it wrong. He's holding something back for the trial, for the formal prosecution, and if he reveals that silver bullet and it works, you'd be happy, yes?
If he's got the evidence that Christian B is responsible, and get on and charge him and let the courts decide whether or not he's the right person, and enable Gerry and Kate to finally get some kind of peace and resolve.
Hans Christian Wolters has no doubt that day will come, just as he has no doubt he's got the right man.
There's only one suspect in the Madeleine case, and this is Christian B.
Hello, I'm Sarah Abo. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our Extra Minutes segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.